Welcome, everybody, to Real Triad Reviews. I am Mr. Snidbits, and we have, of course, Mr. Marvelite and the Black Girl Marvel with us. And we have a special guest host tonight. This is going to be All the Movie Things, also known as Brian, from TikTok. And if you don't follow everybody here on TikTok, please go over and follow everybody, all four of us, immediately, as well as our preview guy, Sean. Everybody here needs some following. How is everybody? How's everybody doing this week?
It's a really messed up day for me.
It's hot.
Good. Yeah.
Oh.
It's a little messed up, but we're going to keep it moving.
Good. I'm sorry that it's messed up, and I'm glad that you're here, that you can be here with us. Our format's a little weird, but I kind of like it tonight. We're all a lot smaller than normal, but we're here.
I can appreciate that.
So we got a couple of movies that we're talking about tonight. Let's see. Let's move over to the poster wall where we're going to see that we're doing The Farewell as well as episode 1 of What If. What's going to be interesting is here in a few weeks, What If will pile up tonight. I'm having a baby. Well, that's a bad way to put it. My wife is having a baby, and I'm going to watch. They're going to hand me a baby, I think, at some point. Hopefully. But yeah, we had a little bit of a scare this week, but everything went well, and now we're back and able to be on the show. But we are going to be taking at least a 2 or 3 week hiatus. It may be longer. It depends on the baby and the wife and how she's doing. But if we can, we'll be coming back here in a few weeks, and we'll pile up the what ifs for once we get back, and we'll do a whole bunch at once. How does that sound with you guys?
I don't like it.
Good.
Oh, I knew Lala would like it. She's like, no, we got to do it anyway. Do the review show with the baby in arms.
Exactly.
Which, we could do that.
Newborn in your arms. So, pretty
Right.
sure the baby will enjoy What If.
So, we can either do the serious film or the fun thing first, but the tone is gonna, suggest. So I'm thinking maybe we should hit the serious film first and then work our way over to What If and have a fun ending to the show. Does that sound good to you guys?
That sounds great to me.
Yeah.
Okay. Not that The Farewell wasn't both a comedy and a drama. It definitely had me laughing a couple of times.
Oh, yeah.
And hello, Angel. Hello, Taco. We appreciate you showing up. We are talking about The Farewell as well as What If tonight. So that being said, I would love to, hello all. I would love to hear the kind of general thoughts and impressions of this film from my fellow co-hosts here. Let's start with Tony, who happens to be sitting at the top today, and we'll work our way down the line. So Tony, Lala, and we'll finish up with Brian, and then I'll give you my thoughts. Tony, let's hear. What do you think of The Farewell?
Okay, so I'm gonna be honest with you. When we first talked about doing this film, I was like, whatever, it's okay, let's just do it. I completely forgot that I actually knew this story, and so. If you don't really know, this is based off of a true story. I actually I encountered this story from This American Life with NPR. They actually had the writer of this, who was also the character Billy, or in the story, kind of going through and chronicling like this instance. And it's interesting though, because like I was sitting here and it had been so long since I had heard it that I really needed to kind of like get assessment. And you guys know, as I'm watching this film, I'm messaging on Discord saying, I don't know if I can do this. It's hard because it's I have this thing where it's the inner turmoil of not being honest or truthful with someone really bothers me. Mm-hmm. And this is definitely one of those stories of whether it's better for someone to know they're going to die, or if it would be better for them to live their lives without that knowledge. And then it comes into the idea of, is it right to keep that type of truth from someone? Who are we to make decisions for other people? And if anything, like it also gives a very a good insight into the life of people of Asian descent, or the Chinese people specifically in this film. A lot of times we go into this and we put our own experiences on a story, and we assume what we think is morally right, yet we do not live in that culture. And
This movie bridged that
whenever
gap pretty well, though.
it did, because you had
Yeah.
people who had left China who were in America and they had been Americanized, or those that see you had that part. Some of them thought America was the American dream. Some of them thought America was not a place to get rich. Some of them thought it was better opportunity. And we know, what America can and can't be. But the world looks from the outside and inside very differently. And I know when I first heard the story, I had a lot of presuppositions about what I thought was right or wrong. And then after watching the story unfold in the movie, it really helped me understand, that it wasn't my perception or my opinion that really mattered. It was seeing how these individuals had to live their lives. And if the topic of death or someone dying or saying goodbye, or if you've ever had someone that you weren't able to say goodbye to, this is going to be a difficult film. You're going to come to terms within yourself. And again, you're going to have judgment calls, and you might not like what these people do, but ultimately, it's more of a learning curve for me. I think it's something that you really have to learn about that culture to really understand and accept it.
I like that.
So that's my initial thought.
It's a great way to lead us in. Lala, what do you think of The Farewell?
Well, I remember when this movie came out. It was a lot of hype around it because it was an all Asian cast, and they were primarily speaking like Mandarin Chinese. So it was a huge thing, and I still think I think it's great. It was giving me because CWYCW has kung fu, and they speak a lot of I think it's Cantonese, Mandarin or Cantonese. They speak in kung fu a lot, which I love that. I love that they're bringing that culture in. So for me, it was nice to see that aspect because in most movies you see they speak a little bit and then it's English the entire time, whereas this was the complete opposite. And
Yep.
and I feel sometimes I feel like subtitles make you sit up and listen, really makes you pay attention, and then it adds a little more value sometimes. I love subtitles, even English subtitles. I'm always in. I love a good subtitle. For me, The Farewell, it got to a point where it hit home very hard. I've lost all my grandmothers, all my grandparents, and then this morning, my sister, her grandmother died. So, and she wasn't biologically my grandmother, but I called her grandma. She cooked for me. She talked to me. I spent time with her. She would ask for me if I didn't show up. So this, I was watching this movie and I was like, well, this is the perfect time to watch this film. If there is any time to watch a film. And so a lot of emotions for me came up in this film, especially when they were saying goodbye to her at the end. It was part of me, the grandmother knew all along what was happening.
Thinking that.
Because she was giving out gems throughout the whole film. If you really look at especially how she was talking to her granddaughter, played by Awkwafina, which I think Awkwafina did an amazing job.
Yeah.
In this film, if you think she's just a comedic actress, think again, because she was very amazing in this film. But just to touch a little bit what Tony was talking about, I love the bridge in American and Homeland. I'm just gonna call it Homeland because I don't want to be disrespectful anyway. But you could see the bridge because even though she was born there, Awkwafina's character, even though she was born there, she went to America when she was 6. That's an early age to easily get immersed in the American culture, whatever American culture is. But to be immersed, especially New York. New York has its own flavor and feel and move. So and now she's 30. So 24 years she's been in America. I'm pretty sure all her family consider her American, and it was just great how they bridged that, where she has memories of being in her homeland and leaving and wanting to go back, but she had no say. And those kind of things. So I think it was a beautifully a well done, beautiful movie. Very, for me, I meant to do the chart in years, but it has to be over, I don't know, 25 years, maybe 25 plus, because it gives me thoughts of the Joy Luck Club.
Yeah.
And I remember watching.
That's been a while for that movie. Yeah, it was the 90s.
And it's I want to say Joy Luck Club might have been like 93, 94, something like that. And we need more films like this across the board, like
Completely.
and because it just shows me, like, not that I didn't know it already because I am a Black woman in America, but it just shows me that, like, people and their issues and their trauma is universal.
Yep.
And if we can all see that we all go through the same thing, I think it will, like, unite us all a little bit more, because I was on two sides of the fence of the what else, Psychopunk? I was on two sides of the fence with telling and not telling. Like, I understood why they wouldn't say anything, because people always say mental health is, like, super important, whether you believe it or not. It's super important, and sometimes not knowing is the factor of, like, life and death. Sometimes not knowing, you can, like, she was still working out, she had a positive outlook, and the stress, sometimes the stress of things can bring you more than, like, the disease. And so, but then I also understand, like, you give people a time, you tell them so that they know, and you give them the chance to settle their affairs if that's what they need to do. And so I was very much like, they should tell her. And I was like, look at her, she's having a good time. Like, I was doing this the entire movie. And because I come from a culture where part of my family is like, we need to be honest and tell everything, and other parts of my family are like, zip it. So this hits very home for me. And respecting your elders, and who do you talk to, or how can you voice your opinion, and all of that good stuff. I thoroughly enjoy it.
Before we move on to Brian, I just want to do a quick shout out to Psychopunk, who just did his 6th month subscription, which is my very first 6-month subscription. So thank you very much, Psychopunk.
Nice.
And real quick, hello, Captain Salty Dog, ahoy, welcome aboard. So all the movie things is Brian, just to my left here. And he is on TikTok. That is his primary form of social media engagement, as well as this here. And he has been invited to be a periodical co-host guest, if you will, or guest co-host, if you will, for several movies here going into the future. And so you'll get to see him a lot more. So if you don't follow Brian on TikTok, please go do. Do you have a Twitch, Mr. Sir?
I do not. No.
Okay, so when he does,
I probably should, I guess.
when he does, we'll get you guys to go over and follow him up as well. But yeah, that's definitely something you should look at doing. And again, follow Mr. Marvelite over there, Black Girl Marvel, and then myself, Mr. Snippets, on all platforms. We are everywhere at this point.
Yes.
PC,
Xbox, PS4.
Yeah, Xbox, absolutely. You can find Mr. Snippets and Mr. Marvelite everywhere. I know you can find Black Girl Marvel on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, across the board. So yeah, hello Brosiah, hello everybody. So many people coming in, but this seems like a good breaking point before we get to Brian's break or take. Wow, I think I'm tired.
Nice. It's okay. Deservedly so. Okay.
And then we have some new followers in here that I wanted to say hello to. It looks like SRA that's in here with us. Hello and thank you for showing up, as well as welcome, who was it? Ray Woo. I think I'm saying that right. Ray Woo.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome as well, and keep with the input in the chat. We do love having the interaction with our chat. But in this initial monologue, we like to let people give their spiel. So Brian, let's move on to your take.
Yes. This was one of those films that I don't know why I didn't watch sooner, like when it came out. It was definitely on my radar then. And right off the bat, I feel like it deserves all the accolades and all the feedback that it's received, for sure. It was, for me, it was really a good view into like another culture, which is like something I've really been opening myself up to more, just personally, as well as, in different films that I watch. And like it's been mentioned before, like the subtitles really, you don't necessarily have to pay attention to them. Like one of the exercises that you kind of do as a filmmaker is you try to do film scenes that tell a story without any audio or any dialogue or anything like that. So they do a really good job with this, where you don't necessarily have to pay attention to every single word that's on the subtitles. You can actually follow along and you get what's going without having to necessarily have read everything. But right off the bat, like in the first like 10 minutes, they kind of lay everything out for you, like with just like where Billy, Aquafina's character, is talking to her grandma, and they're telling all these little like lies to each other, like just because they want to either like make themselves look a certain way or they want to make the other person feel a certain way also, so like that was like already they're laying out the groundwork for like what's to come, and there's just these small little things, and I thought that was really great. And like has been mentioned before, Billy was for us, she was for the audience to like be that bridge to, I mean, there was even some Chinese words that that she didn't even know. She had to like ask, like her parents and stuff like that. And yeah, and her performance was like, I mean, she blew me away. One of my favorite scenes is when she's like, her grandma's doing like the little workout stuff, and then she's kind of like, just kind of like making fun of her a little bit. That was a great interaction between the two of them. And like has been mentioned before, we kind of like, being in Western society, we've kind of struggled with like all those, that do you tell a person that's dying, do you tell them the truth, or is it better just to kind of hide things? And she was really struggling with that herself, like we most likely would and have. Yeah, it was like, and again, it was really great to see, like, this is like kind of their culture. This is part of their culture.
Right.
And there were so many scenes around food, because like food is such an important thing for so many cultures. Yeah, there's so many scenes with around a table. It was really great. Yeah.
Movie made me hungry.
Yeah.
Come on.
Even the grave scene, I was like, oh, what the heck?
Yeah,
that
like,
stuff
oh my
looks
God,
good.
that was
Every bite of food, I was like,
I'm with
The groundskeeper's probably well fed.
Yeah.
Well, it was
yeah,
interesting because
so-
they did talk about how there's so many thieves that they have to break the food up and like make it inedible, because they'll come
Right,
along and steal
yeah.
a bag of chips. That if you just leave a bag of chips, and I did like the
Yeah.
argument about giving the dead guy a cigarette. I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah.
He quit.
Yeah, she was like, he quit.
He's
like,
dead.
3
Is there
weeks
anything
before.
worse
He's
that's going to happen? Like, come on.
but
Right.
it shows that like
Yeah.
the family's been lying since the dawn of time. Like everybody lies to everybody.
Exactly.
Especially
Right.
when the dad
Yeah.
was like, "No, he didn't quit. I promise." And she's like, "No, he quit."
Yeah.
No, I promise.
Well,
he
if it
didn't."
wasn't for that cigarette, we wouldn't have seen that he was there in the hotel room with her until, because of the smoke at the end.
Right.
That's true.
Uh-huh.
Real
Yeah.
quick, somebody, Brosiah, one of my longtime Discord friends and TikTok and Twitch friends, and a good friend of everybody around here, has got some bad news about his brother. And I just wanted to say we all have our best wishes for your brother, that he gets better and comes out of that. That is harsh news, sir, and we are all thinking about him and you, of course.
Absolutely.
It's hard times right now, and that's why we're here to also try to just lift the. Although we're talking about a movie about death, so that's a little hard, but still, we can have some levity about it as well. And this film is trying to have that. It's trying to bring some semblance of not having to necessarily break down and cry. And actually, there's a huge, big part of that with the film where the mother and Billy constantly struggle back and forth about emotion. And of course, I relate to Billy because I'm either because I'm an American or I'm not heartless. I don't know which one. Based upon the movie, I'm not saying that Americans are automatically not heartless. I'm just saying that the film definitely portrays it's either you're a soft American with all this emotion you want to display, or you're hard. And that's the farewell. Yes.
Well, I wouldn't say that they would say hard. I think they were leaning more towards that it's their responsibility to shoulder any type of burden or emotion. So I wouldn't say hard necessarily.
They say that.
For us, we would say hard, but they're more so looking at it like you don't cry because you're taking on their burden. You're making it so they don't have to cry. So you hold it in, type of thing. So which I actually relate to. Like I really related to this film. I didn't think I would, but I really related to, because emotions for me are like I would tell a joke before I like bring out any type of emotion. So this movie hit hard.
No, and that makes sense. And that's, I think this film gives that for both sides. So my overall take was kind of similar. I mean, I've heard three people basically say similarly what I would say, which was maybe I should have watched this sooner. I should have absolutely, given this a chance. And I don't know if I would consider this necessarily a foreign language film because it's split between English and Chinese, or Mandarin. But at the same time, I think being that it's an A24, I think it is split production-wise between Chinese and American studios, which makes it interesting. So it's kind of a foreign. I don't know if the Oscars would count it, but that aside, we are doing spoilers. So if you haven't seen The Farewell, although it's not really a spoily movie, like it's really more of watching the art form and then also enjoying what it does for you personally. Yeah, exactly. And it's about death. So like
it fleshes out a true story that's been reported on.
Right. So it's, just putting it out there for people. But the overall feel of the film, I thought it made me feel like I could walk right with Billy through this because I'm also the outsider. She held my hand through this and helped me understand a culture I'm not a part of. And I felt so bad for the Japanese wife or fiance, if you will. She had no idea what was going on. Totally. And she had less idea than Billy. She was lost. And it's really interesting because we should know the history between China and Japan has not been great ever for a very, very long time, especially in the last 100 years. So that girl was extremely brave in a lot of ways, even in a modern culture, because the family obviously didn't shun her or have any problems with her. They even had a translator for her, which I thought was great, but only for like a minute. And we'll get into full discussion after I say this about the setup of the lie. They set up this lie very elaborately, and there's some pretty G moments, I would say, in how they cover that lie. I was pretty impressed with how they covered it. But the wedding itself is such a unique and interesting way to cover the lie because the happiness in our world and the sadness in our world bump right up against each other. And weddings and deaths feel similar in a lot of ways, especially wakes and weddings. One's just really happy and one's really sad, but they're kind of set up almost exactly the same way. And it was easy for them to display tears without having to be sad. That's genius on the family's part and probably the culture's part. I'm assuming fake weddings are the norm in China, it seems, or at least it would seem.
Of course, you would wonder that if at certain points, if you go get labs done at the hospital, and then all of a sudden there's an impromptu wedding, you should start being worried.
Well, that's what leads me to believe, like Lala said earlier, that absolutely she knew because she had already put her husband through this. But it was almost like it's almost like how good can your family do for you to cover it up? And if they're doing a really good job, you praise them and give them the best advice possible. And if they fail, you don't do that. You're like, you guys didn't even earn my wisdom.
Right, but it's like she also covered up. Like I feel like you can't cover up what somebody feels. Right, like. If it's cancer, some people like bleed internally. If it's cancer, especially in stage 4. So like, I mean, and they didn't show that, which I thank God they didn't show that. But people know when something's wrong with them. Right. Yeah. That's why she was asking all those questions to her sister. Like, what do you mean? Like, what does this mean? Like, what did the doctor say? Things like that. Because she knows her body. Like, she works out all the time. She walks the stairs. Like, she knows when she's not 100%. So like, when they said, I think like right around the time they said that she did this to her husband, I was like, she knows. I was like, she knows. She knows.
Yeah.
Well, that was the most jarring thing. Good.
But I mean, I was just saying, you have to think she's probably already been through this with other family members before too. So it's like, she knows what they're doing. Like, but she's like embracing it because she gets to see all of them. In one big moment.
What got me was when Billy finally vocalized why she was so frustrated with this whole process is because she went to school. Her grandfather just disappeared one day, and they did the funeral while she was at school, and he never came back. And now, as an adult, she understands what happened, and it's that.
Wait, that was her cousin, wasn't it? That was her cousin, right? It wasn't her grandfather. It was her cousin.
I thought that was Billy.
No, she was talking about her grandfather in that scene. She was saying when he died, I wasn't able to come because you guys wouldn't let me because it was the same. Yeah. It was the same stuff that Mama was talking about with her husband. Nine. Thank you. Why did I say Mao? No, it's Hoy. The names are hard for me. She was
talking to her mom, right?
Yeah, because her mom was complaining about, and she said she's like, I didn't even get to go to the funeral, and her mom's like, well, you had school. And it's like she didn't even have the proper chance to grieve.
I literally watched that movie today. I'm pretty sure they were talking about her. She said cousin. She kept saying cousin. I think that was her cousin she was talking about.
It sounds like it happens a lot, so it could have been more than one person, but I will default to I don't know for sure.
I have to find out now because my OCD is going to go crazy.
That's fine. We can. That shouldn't be too difficult to figure out. I guess
regardless, regardless, it was.
But regardless, what he's saying is, it was a big moment. I think that's the moment I teared up first.
Right.
Because her reaction is a true one, because you don't understand the power that lies have, especially on a young child. You think that they don't know. You think that, they'll get past it, where she's been holding on to this, and it just lended a lot of like strength towards the fact that like she internally she knows that this is wrong, because she's been traumatized by it in the past, whether people realize it or not. And that hit so heavy for me, where like past trauma can come up in your adult life and you have to deal with it.
Yeah. And for me, it was an interesting thing, because I have a unique perspective that I actually work in the funeral industry. And I can go into that another time, but there's this whole cycle of this thing called acute loss. So when you have a loss, there's this cycle of events, as part of the grief process you kind of have to go through. And she mentions not being able to see this person. And that's an important part, is like being able to see and celebrate the person's life, and be able to see like the casket, see them, or see the urn, or see something that represents that, yes, they are gone. Because if you don't see them, subconsciously it feels like they're still there somewhere.
I would agree with that.
So
I've watched two people really important to me die. One of them, I never got to see the death, nor did I get to see them at the funeral, because they were in a closed casket due to their family's wishes. This was my mom's boyfriend of many years, so he was like a kind of a dad to me, or an uncle, if you will.
Right.
And so when he died, I never got to see him again. The last time I ever saw him, he and I got in a fight and told each other what a stupid bastard each other were. Yeah. And so he dies, and we get a closed casket, and I never see him again other than pictures. But when my father passed 3 years ago, I watched the whole thing raw, like right there, death rattle, the whole deal. Like the way most people don't experience death. And I'll tell you that the closure is better, but the trauma of watching somebody die immediately in front of you is also way different than just being told somebody died. So there's like a weird trade-off for me personally. And it's been, I know this is a movie about death, and I knew it was going to bring up my dad, and my dog just died 3 weeks ago. So like I got death on the mind.
It's a lot. Yeah.
But it definitely is something. You're right. Seeing somebody after they're dead can give you closure. It really can. I don't think for everybody. I think it is still individualistic.
It helps. Yeah, not for everybody. But yeah, there is studies that show like it helps you go through the rest of the process to like grieve fully, and to move on in a healthy way. But that was a big moment that popped in my head, that she needed to see. She needed to be there, and it just goes back to all the lies that they kind of tell each other of like, I'm trying to like Lala mentioned, like I'm trying to take that burden on for her. I don't want her to carry this burden, kind of thing. So, yeah.
Did you guys notice that the thing that her dad and mom told Billy in the very beginning, which was, you're going to break down, you're going to lose it, you're not going to hold it together, was not true about her, but true about literally everyone else. Everyone else broke down and lost it when they were supposed to hold it together. Right. And Billy held it together the whole time.
Some point.
You're the ones that have to constantly tell you, we're not going to tell her, we're not going to get emotional, we're not going to tell her. Those are the ones that are going to get emotional and start breaking down, like when the uncle did during the wedding.
Man. I think her brother did too at some point, where they were kind of writing it off as him getting like cold feet or something, but he was like breaking down because he knew his grandma was going to pass.
We've got another person giving another kind of testimonial. We've got a lot of people talking about death in the chat, which is very interesting. Captain Salty Dog lost a close friend really recently to cancer, and we have our deepest thoughts and sympathies for you, sir. Brosiah's uncle died a couple years ago. Never was able to let that go, which I get it. It's been 3 years for my dad. I'm not able to let it go. Muncie's dad had to be taken. You guys can read the actual comment. I'm not interested in stating that out and making it worse. But some pretty heavy duty stuff that Muncie had to go through, and that's also something that we feel for you, dude. This is a heavy topic, and I'm glad you guys are being open with us in the chat and just discussing this, because this movie does that.
Awesome.
It pulls it from all of us. We're all sitting here kind of it's all at the surface for me right now. So, but we're on TV, so I'm trying not to let it drop. You know, can't let those tears drop. Lala, you weren't coming through. I can only see your mouth.
Because I muted myself.
Okay, there you go.
Sorry, I think Tony's right. I was going to something thinking it's a grandfather. I don't understand why I'm saying cousin. I don't know where I saw that, but thank you. I was gonna look, so I just wanted to come out and
You're good.
say Tony was right.
Yeah, well, you know, I was reading the script as we were sitting here talking, and I was starting to get confused because I thought maybe it was the cousin, because in the thing it says like Yi and I used to go out and catch dragonflies, and I'm like, okay, that doesn't sound like the grandfather. But then I went back to where they were at the tomb or the grave, and it was the grandfather's name. They called him Yi. And I'm like,
yeah, I must have missed that person. That's cool though. But I was just like, that's like.
But could you imagine? You just imagine you go to school one day and the grandfather's just gone,
right?
And they don't ever talk about it, and you never have any closure. I mean, that would be worse than you know.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Being able to mourn, but that's again, that's where our culture is different from other cultures.
I'm understanding it though. Like I'm with everybody in saying it was back and forth, because I totally felt like once they explained that it was us taking the burden so they can enjoy their last days, I might be a fan. I might be a fan. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's why I was like this, but also I feel like there was such a juxtaposition, because when Billy caught her dad like smoking, she was like, "You don't smoke, like put that down, put that out." And he was like, "This is your father, like you don't tell him what to do, like you know, he's your elder." But on the flip side, your mother is your elder, but you're treating her like a child. So it's like one of those things where it's like, you telling me to do one thing, but you're doing another. So how much weight does your words have, or how much weight does this have if you could do one thing and tell another? You know?
Yeah, that's a whole other layer to it. You know, it's like because then it goes along with not just death, but then it's like trust. How much, like when your parents are trying to have real moments with you, how much are you going to trust them? Because you know, like all these other things, they've had all these little white lies they've told throughout their life, so it kind of weighs you down.
Something that kind of struck me with this whole thing was, you know, we are bound by what we think is our moral or cultural norms, and it's not that it's contrary to that. When we look at somebody else's culture, we think we're automatically wrong. It's more of the idea that, you know, like Billy had saw a different side of the world and had other ideas. And I think the uncle and aunt said it best. They were just going to send Bao Bao to college in the States because of opportunity.
Right.
And then it was the question of, well, when he gets there, he's just going to stay. Well, that's not necessarily the case. There are individuals, just like the doctor. The doctor went to the States and came back. He loves being there. He liked being a doctor, but he was like, "Oh, have you been in New York? Blah blah blah. This and that." Like there was a fondness. His horizons were expanded, and I think one of the interesting things is we may not be able to afford to go to China or, you know, Japan or anywhere else.
Kill my dreams, thanks.
Well, we might not, you know, who knows? We might all become famous and we might go, you know, traveling to different countries. Like, you know, next time, you know, Farewell 2, if they have something like that, we would all go to China to do the show there. But we can, these movies are a vehicle for us to see the world and see how much bigger the world is.
100%.
And I think that helps to understand, you know, not just about death. I mean, you think about the respect that they have on their elders, the weight that they have, the expectations of wealth or success, and how that pressure. I mean, we think about the pressure that we go through, you know, in high school, about getting GPAs and everything else, which I gave up on that picture a long time ago. And honestly, like it's all they think about. And I think the idea that Billy played the piano, and you could hear how Billy had passion in playing the piano. Yeah. But when she went to the States, they couldn't afford it. She was given the key to that church, But when they asked her to play, she's like, I don't play anymore. I stopped playing. And
Mhm.
it's like that changed, but yet it was so ingrained in her. Imagine that was her talent when she stopped as a child, but she was able to turn around and pick it back up and play it. And
Yeah.
I mean, putting me to shame for what I used to do as a kid, but that expectation, and knowing the pressures, and understanding, what they value as important, and it's almost like the hope of the family. So it was very very interesting, kind of like understanding that cultural aspect.
I really enjoyed that
Yeah.
scene overall. I thought that scene was probably one of the more powerful scenes, especially when it came to culture, like you're saying. When the dad came up and was like, yeah, except we're not Chinese. We're really technically Americans, and kind of almost
Yeah.
smug about
Yeah.
it.
We are.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, burn. Oh, crap. Everybody in the room just got uncomfortable. And yet nobody really moved. Nobody, like, that's the thing about this
Mhm.
film. It was all about what you felt, not what you saw. And that's
Yeah.
what I liked about some of the camera shots. And we'll get into those here in a few minutes. But
Mhm.
to answer Muncie's question, he asked a question. I would love to hear your guys' response. He says, if you all had to choose, would you want to know if you were Nai? If you were her, would you want to know?
Oh.
For me personally, yes.
Yeah, I'd say yes. I'd want to.
I said part of me leans towards no.
Hmm.
Like the curious part of me is like, of course I want to know. I want to know what's going on. I want to know.
Okay, I'm gonna try not to be morbid in saying this, but
Or
um, so one of the things after watching a movie similar to this, things in the past, I started doing a system where I have been writing letters to family, and I intentionally have to update those letters, of course, because as times change, so do the messages that you want to get across. um on my computer, I have a catalog of audio files from my kid, mind you, taking from a little bit
Oh,
from
wow.
like the Terminator, with Sarah Connor talking to John, and you
Mhm.
get those ideas. I think in my mind, I would want to know, because I want to be able to prepare to give something to pass on beyond myself.
Yeah.
It's almost like individual giving memoirs or journals. I don't write well, and so like if I were to write a journal, you'd never be able to read it because my handwriting is horrible. But I can type out letters, or I can do audio files as messages to family, and I update packets. So I would definitely want to know, because I would want to be able to have those things ready for them to know how to get them, and them not to be lost.
I'm going to go with
So-
Lala on this one. And I'm going to say I don't want to know because I'm such an anxious person. I'm so anxiety ridden that it might paralyze me to know. If I knew, I would just be like, I'm going to die, and I would just be a wreck. While if I didn't know and I just felt like something was wrong, and they're like, no, you have, benign smoke in your lungs or whatever they said that was.
Yeah.
I think I would accept
Shadows,
it.
benign
Shadows.
shadows. Yeah.
And I think of shadows in the lungs, and I'm like, you mean like Constantine? Like, nah, dude. Like, there's nothing
Oh, you
benign
guys-
about that. But you
It's
could
no
tell
magic, sir.
she lied to herself when she read that doctor's report. She was lying to herself.
You can do it. She's not there, so
I don't know. So
Which
I don't
feel
know.
like she knew. Like
I'm
she
with
knew I feel like she knew the entire time. But I wanted to touch back on that family scene, but there was like it was like the Western versus
Mhm.
I thoroughly enjoy that scene because it really just shows me the difference in our culture.
Yeah.
Americans yell, right? And I feel like we yell out of fear because it's like, if I'm louder than you, then like, it's like that thing where they say, like, if you're louder than a bear and it runs, you make enough noise, like it darts, it runs off. I feel like Americans are like that. Like we yell with no context, no substance. And that scene to me was way more powerful because everybody was very subtle. They were still eating,
Mhm.
but they were still saying like some stuff that cut to the bone, right? And it made the scene like even more like substantial because you understood everything everybody said. You understood the emotions, their facial expressions, everything. And I believe it's a conversation that happens in mixed families of one culture that happens to branch off and go towards another culture, because I feel like in that culture, if you get to America, you have made it, right? That's the thought in everybody's mind, is that you made it to America, you made it.
Well, you could
The
tell
rest of it-
And
the
you could tell.
the bus boy, not the bus boy, the bellboy was a perfect person to show that that's what they were setting up with a couple of those things. The doctor was another one where they were like, "What's New York like?" And the guy wouldn't leave her alone, like wouldn't even leave her room because he wanted to know about New York so bad. So yeah. So you're right. You're totally right.
Try to get him out of the room. But it's like it's one of those things where like they feel like you make like she became like a mini celebrity in different pockets because she was American in a sense, and they feel like because she's American, she's hit a certain stratosphere, and not understanding that we pretty much a third world country. The way we going, this place is coming down the drain. But I just love the subtlety in the cinematography and how it was filmed. Everything it was just like beautifully done, and it just shows that you can have a discussion without yelling, without throwing things, without cursing, without a lot of things that we do as Americans. That just shows how afraid we actually are, as opposed to getting the truth out.
Have you seen Home for the Holidays, the Robert Downey Jr. film? Nobody. Okay, all three of you should watch that movie because it's great. It's Holly Hunter, Robert Downey Jr. He's the estranged like brother, uncle, if you will, that comes back for the holidays. It's a Thanksgiving movie. There's like three of them. Anyway, the dynamic of the family interaction in that versus the farewell, I think would be great to put the two scenes of the family interaction scenes right next to each other, because what Lala's saying is exactly right. You would see screaming and hollering with the same interactions, the same cutting to the bone feelings, versus almost silence with just this respectful tone. It's bizarre to me. It was hard to accept as they were doing it. I'm like, you don't want to scream? I almost felt like Billy was going to just scream it out right then in that scene. Like she was ready to just burst. So.
I feel like there was a couple of them that were kind of like, felt like, they were like, like Lala mentioned, it's part of their culture, like they know, no, I'm just going to like try to hold it in, but where there was like that, some tension, you could just feel it. Like it was, those scenes were really great. Yeah. I wanted to mention.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I wanted I'd like to hear your perspective, Lala, but I feel like just talking about like representation in this film, like there's no other way this could be done without the director who directed it and wrote it. It's just and what was mentioned earlier was like it's so important for like people like me to see these things, because maybe I'm not going to exactly experience this part of the world or this culture ever. You know what I mean? Like I've been to like other places and experienced culture, but still it's like from a third party perspective, and these kind of films are so important to showcase that to people that may have never seen this kind of thing, So I feel like that was really important for me to see this and really experience something totally different that I had no idea about.
Good on you for recognizing that, by the way.
Yeah.
Because not everybody does. Tony, you look like you got something. You got something ready.
No, I just was. No, it's just
it was right here. It's like
there were so many moments in this film that just kind of get me like thinking about, questioning my own perception of things, and that's just kind of where it went.
Oh yeah.
It was like the wedding scene. They were having so much fun, and like the cousin was drinking so much, and that drinking ended up bringing, instead of him being like happy and everything else, he's like running away because he's just struggling to keep it together because he knows what's going on. And you saw the uncle struggle to keep it together, and then she gets up, you get Billy up there to say some words. Nana asked her to say words, and she's up there, and you're like, okay, she's heading towards saying something. She walks away, then comes back, and I'm like, oh no, she's gonna do it now. And then all of a sudden she's like, oh yeah, congratulations, and like,
I love the audience
like
member.
How do you say congratulations?
It was like that misplaced humor in the midst of all of this, and
which happens in real life.
Yeah.
No, that was a very real scene. Like, oh.
Yeah. And even like when you look at Nine, she was in the army. She went against her family's wishes and went in the army, and she was known as like a honored soldier in the army.
Dude, she was a beast.
And these men were just praising her, and they were like calling out like something's not right with you. Are you okay? And it's like, you know, she went against the norms, and it was almost like another message within that, like trying to tell Billy, you know, go ahead and just tell her, you know, because she was a rebel too. You know, she said things that she shouldn't have said back then. She did things she shouldn't have done back then. Be the rebel. And it was almost like all of the interactions gave opportunities for that to happen, and Billy just went with the flow with it. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I like that. It's I like that. It's what's that? And I think in the beginning, this movie really got me like just from the beginning, because they were like, yeah,
me too. Same.
the moment they said that one, I loved anything with a grandmother and connection, because I felt like I had a really strong my mom's mom, like me and her were very close. Like I like towards the end of her life, like I've been with her since I was 10, and towards the end of her life, like our dynamic flipped to where like I took care of her and I fed her and I washed her up and I clothed her. Like it flipped. And so anything with a grandmother and a granddaughter, I'm like bawling. Like I'm crying at Moana. Like I'm like dead in the water, right? I'm just dying. And it already got me from the beginning. But when they told her like, yeah, you're not coming with us, because like I was like, wait, is this a
Yeah.
is this real? Like just to tell her like, no, you're too emotional. And you know, you and I are so close. She's gonna know immediately that something's wrong just by looking at you. And for her to be the only one that could hold her emotions, whereas everyone else around her was like crumbling. Like even the mother crumbled in her own way, because sometimes when we don't allow ourselves to cry, it comes out as anger. And so it came out as anger against the grandmother. Like she doesn't like anything I do, and she gets him drunk, but I can't. But it's like you're grieving because you love her too, because you call her mama.
Oh yeah.
You call her mama. Like you don't call people mama that you don't love,
even though that's your husband's mom, you still call her mama. Uh-oh, did we lose Lala?
Oh, did we lose Lala? It's frozen.
Did we lose Marvel?
She's thinking about what you said. No, I'm here.
Okay. You were very frozen for a moment too. So while we wait to see if Lala comes back, the birds. Let's talk about the bird scenes. There's 3 of them. Which I went and looked it up, because there's always some significance when they do things like that in film, and so I just looked it up to make sure, and I had a feeling it had something to do with Chinese culture, and it does. And it's a Chinese omen of death when a bird flies into your situation like that. And what was interesting was that it happened twice. Once in her apartment right at the beginning of the film, again later on after, I think it was right before the wedding. I think it was either right before the wedding or right after the wedding, and then of course the very final scene with the birds, which that's when I cried. I didn't cry through the whole film. When those birds took off out of that tree, I cried my brains out, because it hit me right then. It was like it all unloaded because I hid from it. We'll let her load back in. There she is. The cinematography is something that was brought up earlier, and I really want to cover that a little bit, because when they did finally find out that Nai sent her friend to go, or was it maybe like the niece or something, to go get the newest results from the hospital, Billy takes off like a bat out of hell to go catch up with her, and they both don't know how to read Chinese, so they have to take it, to somebody else and have it doctored, right? Uh-oh.
No.
What occurred?
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Anyway.
That was
Lala's jumping from box to box here.
Too,
anyway. So anyway, yeah. So to me, as soon as they got that all done and she read the results, and it shows the scene right after where the whole family's walking down the street like G style, and they're all like bopping up and down like, we did this, man. We totally kept a secret. And I was like, that's the comedy of this movie. That scene made me laugh, but at the same time, I could see how they were carrying that burden. Like you could almost feel it on them as they were walking. And that's the silence of the beautiful shot in cinema. It's one of the reasons I love film, is that spoke volumes. I didn't need dialogue. Totally. So anyway, that was my take. Lala, are you back with us?
It was all...
Am I?
You're back. Okay. We got you.
Okay. Cool.
Brian, you were going to say something.
Oh yeah, there's that moment, like, I mean, really hits you, because like they feel like there's like a sense of accomplishment. There's like all this. There's a lot of stuff going on in that one just moment. There's like a little bit of humor in there. But then there's also like this triumphant moment. Maybe they feel there's some triumph there because they did this thing together. But then there's also like just like the weight of what they, carrying out this lie this far to doctor this document. You know what I mean? Like it's so much going on in just that one slow motion. Like, yeah, it was like from a hip hop
Real quick,
music video or something. It was
it was maybe a 4-second shot, maybe 6-second. It was
Yeah.
not very long at all. And there was more
No.
emotion packed into that slow-mo shot than all of Zack Snyder's slow-mo shots combined.
it wasn't for
Just putting that out there.
to be
Slow-mo is for a
They had
reason,
actual
Zach.
story, so
Slow-mo's
Yeah.
for a reason.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
great.
Zack Snyder's a cautionary tale on slow-mo. I'm sorry. I'm gonna digress.
no question, okay.
So
Mhm.
it's a
I just
little
thought
after
of a
8.
scene that
Go ahead.
I just thought of a scene that could counteract the chill scene of the family, like talking about America and like China and everything. And it's, have you ever seen August Osage County?
No, I need to.
Yeah, you need to watch that. There's an iconic, like it's even iconic in the play. I read the play too.
Who's speaking right now? Is Lala speaking?
Yeah.
Okay, I can't even hear her at all.
What?
Yeah, it's really
That's
weird.
great.
I don't see her and I don't hear her.
Oh wow.
Anyway, keep going.
Okay. So there's a scene in August Osage County where it's like a family of women essentially, and they're all at the table, but they're very American, and they're just blatantly like cursing and yelling and like throwing out like, excuse my language, you guys, I know it's like PG-13, but that's just for effect, throwing out like bitches and you slut whore. Like, it's a crazy scene, but to me it's such an American scene where I've seen people act like that in real life. I've seen people yell and scream and be demeaning, whereas in this was a more subtle demean in this movie, which I feel like those are the two like American versus like Eastern type of like things. You should see it. August Osage, it's Meryl Streep, Julia Roberts. It's very good. It's very good.
I love Meryl Streep, Julia Roberts.
No, she was good in this. She was good in this. I understand your trepidation, but she was good in this. Like,
We've talked about that before, I think.
Mm-hmm.
My hang up with Julia Roberts, America's sweetheart. And not.
Well, I never thought about that. I just, for whatever reason,
movie,
I have this urge to watch Erin Brockovich again now. I don't know why.
Because it's her only good movie. I mean, it's a good movie.
It's not her only good movie. I will say, as much as I love American Sweetheart, I really watch it for the first because he was amazing in it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we do have only 50 minutes left for the show. We do have a pre-review to show, so I'm going to do that here in just a moment after we do our takes. I don't think 12-year-old us should weigh in on this one. I don't think 12-year-old us would have ever watched this movie.
12-year-old me would not have watched this.
If somebody made me, I would have been like 0, -5. Like I would have been like.
See, I probably would have because I watched the Joy Luck Club. I was like barely 10 whenever that movie came out. I think I was 10 when it came out or something like that.
All right.
And I watched the Joy Luck Club, loved it. But we don't have to do this 12-year-old. I'm just saying, like my 12-year-old still probably would.
We can. I just don't think it's going to be a fair assessment.
Yeah.
If we're trying to be honest.
Yeah.
So I suggested this film, so I'm going to go first. I don't normally go first, so I'll do that. I didn't think I was going to like it just because I do struggle with some subtitles sometimes, mostly because I do have trouble sticking with it, and I'll look away and go, oh, I missed something, and I'll have to backtrack. And I did that probably 100 times during this film and during any foreign language film. It's not that I won't watch them, but it takes more effort. So I was worried by all this effort that I'd get to the end of the film and go, oh. But I love that it has kind of an ambiguous ending. Kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really want to say the ending because that's like the one spoiler bit. I think we'll just leave that alone. But yes, Muncie, you are an old soul. You would have you watched 12 Angry Men when you were 12. Like it seems to correlate. So I would say I think this movie deserves a 9. The reason I don't think it deserves a 10 is that it was her freshman take. And I think that this filmmaker has a lot of room to grow, just like anybody does. Lulu, what was her last name?
Lang.
Thank you. great filmmaker, really great vision, and I think that the cinematography really elevates the film. Even though some of the shots are stagnant, very Kevin Smith style sit still shots, when the camera moves, it's dynamic, and I like it. So 9 for me. Brian.
Yeah, I definitely, I kind of already knew I was gonna like this, just from what I'd heard, and like I love Parasite. I think that's another great film that has a lot of representation that needs to be seen. Another huge cultural eye opener. Yeah, this one's definitely like a 9.5 for me. Yeah, it just hit me. It just, I mean, I felt so many different emotions. You know, I love like the little bits of humor, and it's not like over the top. Like I wasn't like gut busting laughing, but it was just like enough levity to like help you get through. You know, and until that one last punch, you know, where that's where it really like I just kind of lost it. I was like it was all set up for that reason. Like, okay, we're gonna make these people just lose it at this moment, and boom, they're now lose it. It's like it was just timed perfectly in my mind. So, yeah, definitely like a 9.5 for me.
Lala.
I'm a echo Brian. I'm giving it a 9. I'm literally giving it a 9.5 because I told you guys I'm a sucker for anything with a grandmother and a granddaughter. It's my bread and butter. I will make it probably be in the same vein as this, or emotional vein, I guess you could say. I thoroughly enjoyed this because this is actually based off of Lulu's Lucy. Her life. It's based off her life. So I feel like to put that out, and it was filmed blocks away from her actual grandmother, who was based off of that she was keeping this secret from her. And the one who played Little Nine is actually her real auntie. Like that's the actual that's her actual auntie who played herself in the film. So like
that's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm always looking for stuff. I'm like, what can I put out for the guys?
Yeah.
Marco like beats me to the punch. He's like, did you guys know? I'm like,
that's great.
I turned to like Joe Pesci from like Home Alone. Oh man. But I think she did like an amazing job. One of my dreams is to take a chunk of my life and put it in film for my family to see, because sometimes I feel like that's the only way they can hear me is if I put it in that way. And so I love what she did, and I give it a 9.5 because it hit me all types of feels, and it actually, I related to it in a way that I didn't think I would, because I'm just not the same race, but it just showed me that it don't matter, you know. So
love it. Mr. Marbley.
I'm a sucker for anything where I get to learn something new about another culture, and I have been trained well to enjoy subtitles. I'll be very honest with you, because I watch a lot of Chinese film through Netflix and things like that. So that part was not hard for me, because it's kind of my bread and butter at this point when I sit down and just really enjoy something that's going to make me feel a whole lot of emotion. And this movie, I was having a hard time watching it, and it's not because it's a bad film. It's because I had listened to this on, again, This American Life, and so I knew what was happening. And so I have this problem where if I watch something that I know will cause anxiety, and I know there's going to be anxiety, I want to get up and walk out of the room and avoid it at all costs. Whether that's ADHD or there's OCD, you know, whatever it is, I'll find out on Tuesday. But like the whole thing for me is this story was definitely worth hearing, and I think because it really does make you think and get introspective. I probably would have watched something like this as a 12-year-old, because my family made me watch films of different genres, and you know, it was you know, we were watching all over the place, and it was always the thing where if we would rent movies at you know on a Friday night at Blockbuster, my mom would get one movie of whatever she wanted, and I'd watch her movie first, and then she'd fall asleep while I watched my movies.
Nice.
And I ended up always loving her films. I just wouldn't tell her. And so
you could use it to your
I would
advantage.
definitely, yes, I definitely would give this a 9, just because I do think that there is room for this story to, you know, for this writer, this director to grow. But it was very well done. It's maybe not something necessarily that I would go back and watch again unless I'm trying to get my family to, which I've already told them you're going to have to watch this film.
This is definitely a film that you would tell people to watch without a doubt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what I'd also say is after you've watched the film, This American Life, episode 585, In Defense of Ignorance, that's the story that Lulu Wang actually does the whole narration. So you actually get to hear Nine Eye, you get to hear, some of the family members as they're talking through their emotions. And it's a great accompaniment to the movie. So I would definitely recommend that.
And Mr. Marvelette is also saying, NPR, if you're listening, we would go ahead and we would love it if you'd go ahead and, sponsor us. And then we can go ahead and whenever you do This American Life films, we'll review them for you and we'll give us,
Ira Glass,
the
you better be
average
listening to us.
So just putting that out there.
Ira Glass.
I wouldn't mind doing that at all. But they'd have to let us do Marvel movies. They would just have to.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
All right. So that sounds like a very good approach and review of that film. I think we did a pretty good job. We are going to move over to the pre-review with Sean. It's about 4 minutes long.
Good.
If you have to use the restroom, do it fast. And we'll be right
Tony
back.
always
Guys.
has these.
What?
Tony always has these bathrooms. He's like, yeah, I gotta go.
He's ready. Look at he's got his hands on the.
I was
He's
when
like,
I started going like this, I'm
hit the
like,
button.
we better have a pre-roll.
Okay. Pre-review coming. Here we go, guys.
You got 4 minutes.
Triad listeners, I'm Sean, and I'm back with this week's pre-review of movies coming to theaters and streaming this week. Let's kick off theaters with The Protege, that has Michael Keaton, Maggie Q, and Samuel L. Jackson. That looks like an amazing action adventure spy thriller. It just looks awesome. I can't wait to watch it. Next is The Nighthouse, starring Rebecca Hall. This looks like a psychological horror that I cannot wait to watch. This is right up my alley. It's gonna be amazing. Looks terrifying. Also coming to theaters this week is Reminiscence, directed by Lisa Joy and starring Hugh Jackman. This, when I was watching it, I thought it was Christopher Nolan. I had to look up the director. I mean, this thing oozes, I don't know what's going on. So, it looks like one I'd definitely watch. New to Netflix this week, Jason Momoa joins the Netflix originals with Sweet Girl. It appears to be about a man who takes on Big Pharma, and Big Pharma fights back, but they may have taken on the wrong man. And also coming to Netflix, it'll be out before the next week's pre-review, so I have to talk about Witcher: Nightmare of the Wolf, which is going to tell the tale of a very young Vesemir. It just looks amazing. Theo James is going to voice Vesemir, and Graham McTavish is going to voice Deglin. Now, I don't know who Deglin is, but if Graham McTavish is voicing it, I'm in. Definitely one of my favorite voice actors. This week, coming to Amazon Prime. Now, I'm not a big musicals guy. There's a few musicals I like here and there, but there's one coming out starring Adam Driver called Annette. And it may be a musical, but I have no idea what's going on. The story looks so mind-boggling. I cannot wait to watch this. I love thrillers that are just mess with your head, and this may be a musical, but it's definitely messing with my head. I can't wait to watch it. Thanks for watching, Real Triad listeners, and we'll see y'all next week.
And we're back. That was Sean with the pre-review, where he reviews the movies coming out and whether or not he thinks that you'll like them or he'll like them. And yeah, he's usually pretty excited about what's coming out. So go follow Sean, please, at Super Kame Guru on TikTok. That is his primary social. And of course, since we're at it, please go ahead and follow all the movie things on TikTok, as well as Black Girl Marvel and Mr. Marvelite, and every other platform that's available. Well, not all of them, but you can try. If we're not on there, you won't find us.
Just tell us, and then we'll be on there.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
through there.
So
Also, follow Mr. I don't know if he said himself. Did you say yourself?
I try
Please
to.
follow
but
Mr.
I appreciate
Follow
that,
him.
Lola.
He loves shouting us out. Let's shout him out.
I appreciate that. So moving over to the poster wall, the last thing we're going to be doing tonight is talking about What If season 1 episode. Well, season 1. Look at me, getting all hopeful.
Season 1.
Episode 1
I'm
of
sure
What
they're
If.
gonna do multiple seasons. Yeah.
And again, for those that don't know, I am in the middle of having my wife cook a baby, and we will be having that baby in 7 days. Well, she will, and again, they'll hand me that baby.
Tony said, "Wait a minute."
It's the cook a baby for me.
I'll cook that baby.
Oh, yeah, I've been joking about how the baby was at 400 at 45, but we need 50 is really what it boils down to. There's a lot of cooking terminology in that sentence. Anyway.
Yeah, wait for the little
Yes,
button.
just remember 350. You have to remember to baste.
Well, that's what we did. We actually, the baby got steroids. I called that
Exactly.
basting, and then we need another 5 minutes. So, basted with steroids.
Has the belly button popped yet to know that
Yeah,
it's done?
the little button.
The belly button did pop actually a couple of days ago. That's funny that you
there we
asked
go.
that. Because it will eventually once that uterus gets too big. And okay, we're moving on.
Maybe that.
Childbirth and
Maybe
cooking
that's
turkeys is about the same thing. So
Right. So What If, of course, picks up right after Loki and before any other major Marvel movies are coming out. And Loki, of course, spoilers. Let me make sure I got the spoiler alert thing going on here. If you haven't seen What If, we will be spoiling it. We'll put that up now. My general impression of the very first... Whoa, that just kicked back in echo form. My general impression of the very first episode was... I was ecstatic. I love the Disney style animation that they brought into it.
Yeah, it was super cool.
I love the premise, and when I saw the Watcher in that intro, in that first minute, I got giddy and was like, oh, and I got all crazy. It's a short episode, so I don't want to go too far. I don't want to take it all. So we're going to go in reverse order this time, since I started with Tony last time. We're going to... Well, how about start in the middle? Lala, what was your impression of What If Episode 1, Captain Carter?
I was thoroughly pleased. That's what I was saying. Because I love that, Marvel started off with a woman. And they started off with a woman that everybody wished her show would have continued, even though I never watched it, but I enjoyed Peggy and Captain America. She might have been one of the best parts of Captain America for me, the first one, because, a lot of I don't particularly care for Captain America, like the first film, not the person, I love him, but I don't particularly care for the first one, but she was a breath of fresh air, Marvel has a hard time with their animations, so I was very weary about What If, because I don't like how their animations are drawn, but this one gave me like a very comic booky feel, and I think that's why I enjoyed it. It was like a 2D, 3D type of feel. It was like very weird. So they mixed that type of they mixed those two together. So the story, like I found myself watching it and being like, okay, but this happened in the movie, and then they did this, and then and that happened. I found myself doing that, and my friend was watching it with me, and she has never seen a Marvel film in her entire life.
Oh man, wow.
I don't think she ever is, because she didn't even know who Iron Man was. And I was telling her stuff. I was like, I know she didn't care, but I love her. Because she listened to me the entire. I was like, no, this is what happens with the thing.
Oh man.
The thing he did. And she was just like, like she just,
man,
she was just like, and back to my phone. Like, she was like there with me.
Yeah.
I that's why I love her, right? But I love the story. I love the one. I just want to shout out the Watcher, who was voiced by Jeffrey Wright. I love everything Jeffrey Wright touches.
Yeah.
He's like magic to me. And I love that they brought back Haley and Chris and Sebastian, like and Samuel, and I'll call them all by their first names because I know them personally. But I
don't forget about Bradley Whitford. Okay.
Oh yeah,
it was a great addition.
It was great.
I know. Man, listen, the moment he opened his mouth, I was like, "That's Bradley Whitford."
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
and classic asshole.
I'll wrap this up so everybody else can go. I just thought it was well done, and it just showed. It showed misogyny at its height. At his height, and how even though she took hold of the super soldier serum, still didn't call her a soldier. He still wouldn't. And when she was in her highs, he was loving it. And the one time she messed up, ugh, you should have been this.
It wasn't even her mess up.
It wasn't exactly, but the one time it seemed that she did, it was just like he was just done. He was like, you should have had this. It was just, I was like, ugh, murder, but it was really good. I can't remember.
Brian, what's your initial reaction?
Initial reaction, it was great fun. Like I had like this weird dichotomy going on where I was like, it was like moving at a freaking breakneck pace. Like it was just like going right away, and it was so fast. And of course they're playing off of like, well, you should have already seen First Avenger by now, Captain America. But at the same time, I was like, oh, I just wish we'd get a little more something, you know. I loved it. It was fun. So great. I mean, there's so many fun little moments. The animation is like, it's like that awesome cell shading kind of animation. And there's like mix of CG in there. Yeah, it was, I mean, the actor that was playing Steve Rogers, he did a really great job, even though like Chris didn't come back for this, but I thought he did a pretty good job. And yeah, it was just nice to see her. Like, I mean, it was almost like she was more of a badass than like Captain America was. Like she was like, someone's done a thing where like it was like brutal. I mean, like some of the, like the way she was just taking out people left and right.
The trucks,
right
when
just,
she learned her power,
like,
dude.
Yeah, like she does that thing where she is like riding the motorcycle. She like jumps this thing and basically kicks this motorcycle into this bunker. I mean, it was a bloodbath without any blood, but it was just kind of like more brutal than I thought it was going to be. But it was intense. Yeah, and like there's some interesting things going on there, like near the end too, where it's like, okay, what is going on there? Like, I did love that. No matter what timeline Peggy and Steve are in, they still have this connection. You know, like there's still like this fate between them that they're, you know, destined to be kind of ripped apart.
They're a dyad in the Force, if you will.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's like you see some of that in there, and yeah, I won't say the very end, but the very end was very interesting. It could go anywhere, you know. So I'm very intrigued for the future. So yeah,
Mr.
Really
Marvelite. No, thank you very much for that, Brian. I appreciate it, Mr. Marvelite. I would love to hear your breakdown, your initial thoughts, I should say.
A while back, I did a TikTok video about why I thought that Peggy Carter was worthy of the super soldier serum. That when Dr. Erskine said he's a clear choice, she was a choice as well, because when that grenade was dropped, they were both going for it. You then have, and it was funny because I thought initially when the way this was go that would be the moment when they would have decided to put her, but at the same time, going back to the 1940s, there would have been no possible way that a woman would have been chosen to take on the super soldier serum, which was unfortunate. And I think the way that they did it, that she was the only person able to do it. I mean, let's face it, they were willing to put Howard Stark in the machine before they would even consider her. And when she realized that she had, you know, she was the only choice, or else the whole experiment would be destroyed. And the fact that if she wouldn't have done it, Hydra would have won. It would have been a bloodbath, and the world would have been drastically different. The relationship between Peggy and Steve, what I love about that is their relationship was solidified in the car ride to that experiment, when they were engaging with each other, and it didn't matter if he was strong or if she was strong. It was the character between the two of them that they were attracted to, and I think that was crucial. The other thing was, it made perfect sense, because I was sitting there when I was first watching the movie or the show, and I thought, she is more brutal than Steve Rogers ever was. And it's literally because she's a soldier. Yeah. Steve didn't like bullies. And so he didn't want to kill. He didn't have the inclination to do what had to be done. He did it because he knew it was necessary, but you could always tell Steve was holding back because Steve was much stronger than he ever let on in the movies. And so Peggy is not holding back. She's a force of nature with the super soldier serum in her, which I think was amazing. But she also knew when to stop. The ending, the way that Hydra went using the Tesseract when Zola wasn't able to make the weaponry, it was a little bit too much Hellboy for me.
I can see that.
But I liked it. It reminded me of Hive from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, because they always talked about, bringing Hive, their champion. And so this tied very good into the canon of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Which makes
awesome.
Kev Parker 100% correct, by the way.
Yes, because he won me over on that.
Saga that's going on,
Yeah, he and I have been talking about that he's just like, man, they won't relent, and I'm like, but you're right, you have all the evidence. The dude was a researcher with a grad degree. Let him do his research. Anyway. No, so real quick, Jesse just jumped back in. Jesse was our very first subscriber, and she just came back in to give us full 6 months of subscription, which is absolutely appreciated, Jesse, and welcome. We don't get to see you often, and you're amazing. We are talking about What If, the episode number 1, which, by the way, I've got a spoiler here for everybody. Luckily, we're running the spoilers, but the crew here doesn't know this necessarily either. But I just looked on IMDb, and it is already slated for a season 2. There are going to be 9 episodes for season 1, and it already says on the IMDb season 2. So that's exciting. And considering that What If allows you to literally make a What If on anything, you could make a show forever. They could Simpsons.
And there is also rumor that Agent Carter will make a live action debut in the MCU, possibly in the future. So that I'm very
possibly Doctor Strange.
Yes.
By the way, we are going to be doing another movie here soon. Mr. Marvelite did redeem the Forbidden Kingdom. That will be on our docket for the month of September because of the redemption. So it has to happen. Yeah, so 9 episodes. It'll be nice to break them. So one thing, you like that movie? Because I've never seen it, and I was told that I have to watch it. So
I
either love it or you hate it. It's pretty much how it is.
Fair.
Just talked to somebody about that the other day.
It's hilarious. So I would love to touch upon the Captain Carter or Captain Britain, which is not accurate, but still fun to say since she has the shield. There's been a lot of debate on whether or not Captain America or Captain Carter would be stronger, or who would win in a fight. And I actually think there's not even a question that it would be Peggy all day, every day. Because if you take scrawny ass little Steve Rogers with asthma and every other known ailment, including like clubfoot and all sorts of weird things that, not that having clubfoot is weird, please have clubfoot and be okay with it. But he has all these ailments, takes a super soldier serum, and he's badass. And even if he was reserved, he's, still at this level. Peggy was healthy, stronger, could have whipped his ass in that fight, even as regular humans. She's going to be notches above him. This is why she took out trucks rather than motorcycles.
Oh, dang.
So that's just my opinion.
Did you see Salty Dog just redeemed the last witch on her?
Oh, no, you did not.
I've seen that movie. Woof.
Isn't that the Vin Diesel movie?
I think I have it in 3D, so I have to watch it in all 3 dimensions of bad.
Oh, Lord.
Well, that's gonna be so good for you guys.
All right, so we're gonna have to have a redemption week. I guess it'll be when we come back. We'll do those 2 films and What If. We might have to break it down to where we do one week and one another, because it depends on how many What If episodes we have.
That's a lot of hard swallows, but yeah.
I don't mind.
Right.
I want to weigh in on the Captain America, Captain Carter.
Please.
Is it if they both have the soldier?
Yeah. So let's take the Captain America
Okay.
from the MCU and the Captain Carter from What If, and put them against each other.
Okay. I mean, I'm not saying this because girls should stick together. It's just easy. It's easy to know that this Peggy will wipe the floor with because I feel like for the most part, she trained him in the first one. Like, I'm not saying that the guy didn't, but she trained him. So, and she's technically a soldier, whereas he is more of like propaganda in the beginning, right? So, like,
Yeah, exactly.
like his skills are learned over time, where hers are like embedded, right? So with the super soldier serum, like in her, everything that she's learned up until this point is just amplified like tenfold, as opposed with what it was for Captain America, because we really don't see his full power, or at least a touch of it, until he gets to Winter Soldier. And how many years was that before, you know what I mean, before he got to like.
That's
So Sharon, I'm calling her Sharon because I hate
Peggy.
Yeah, but Peggy, thank you, Brian. But Peggy mopped the floor with his Cap. Yeah, he would. Yeah.
What do you guys?
Did you guys catch the one thing that bothered me? Like, okay, so we have Steve becoming Captain America, and he goes around and he sells bonds because he's like the picture of the American soldier. He's he's the propaganda of all of the soldiers are heroes. But when she's given the uniform to go after Hydra, it is a USO outfit.
Yeah.
She was gonna be a show for the soldiers to try to boost morale. They were gonna just show her off, like as something to encourage the guys. Oh, look, it's a girl, and but it made perfect sense. Like the chauvinism of, how she was viewed, even though she could break the necks of every single man in the room.
Exactly. Yeah,
and
I caught that too. I thought that was interesting. It's like, it was just a show that she's going to be doing. Yeah.
Because you initially think when you watch Captain America, she keeps falling over anyway. I have the Funko Pop, but she keeps falling over. When you see Captain America, you think, they have respect for Peggy because she's the, she's leading the soldiers. She's part of the Strategic Scientific Reserve. Phillips is, entrusts her and everything. But she was kind of a novelty, like Stark was. It was almost like I think she was used as a token.
Well, she was the connection between the British soldiers, like because the Brits didn't have as much of a hang up as we did, or the Chinese after we learned from the farewell, and it allowed her to have a position of stature. And because she had that position of stature, it allowed her in the room. But had she not been British, I think you'd be 100% right.
Yeah. Which is unfortunate, though, because she was such a powerhouse.
Right. I think one other, just to tag on to what Lala was saying, was like what everyone's saying about Captain Carter versus Captain America. I think when she mentions being so covert multiple times in this, like she's like, oh, I'm usually more covert than this, or like this, and then she gets the suit and she's like, oh, this doesn't really help my covert side. I think a part of her, like when she gets this serum in her, she's like, part of her's had to like repress like some of her training because she's had to be this covert operative for so long, and now she's like free and she can just unleash this other side of her training that she's never had to use before.
Look at the way she goes after the guy in First Avenger when she goes out on the street. You see it in her eyes when she's shooting that guy, and she's a dead shot. In the cartoon, when she steps up to shoot the guy, I'm like, oh, she's got this guy. Like, I didn't even have a question. They solidified her marksmanship right away. I think she's one of the best shots in the MCU, from what I can tell.
Something else I thought was interesting too that I should have mentioned was like the Watcher talks about like the whole universe can change with just one choice. I had mentioned this in like a video I had done where it's like I had like studied theoretical physics, and part of that was like the concept of there being actual parallel universes and being like another version of myself and you and all of us. But that would only take that to happen. It would take just the difference in one molecule to separate, and so that was so interesting that they were like, just this one simple choice totally branched this whole timeline off.
I like it was a defiant choice and a feminist choice where she was like, no, I think I'll stay in the room.
I'm good.
I'm good here. And not like defiant in a verbal way, but just in a social way.
Yeah. And she wanted to be supportive of Steve, because they had that look that moment before he goes into the chamber.
Yeah.
So.
Was that the scene where like they're about to kiss at the table and then Howard comes in?
Yeah.
Like, my friend was like, yeah, they want to do it.
Can I say we've had like 2 jump scares within the last 2 Marvel series? First we had Miss Minutes, and then we had Howard.
Miss Minutes is so good. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
that
good.
scene was a little odd, especially when they did the the old cartoon style fade in, like zoom in to close the scene. I thought that was a little wonky, but they were also trying to show that they were in the 40s still.
Yeah, I love that. I love the music behind it. I love how they cut stuff. I love
that little montage they had. Yeah.
Yeah, first. I love the effects, like the choreography and the fighting was still like Marvel ish. You know what I mean? Like the way she kicked one dude, I was like, damn, like that was what I had. I was like, that's
well, there were some shots that were directly like when she comes bursting out of the front door. They just took the shot and painted Peggy right over that. And then we haven't once mentioned Steve's robot, the Tesseract Run Iron Man suit from the 1940s. Oh my god! I love when Howard's like, I know what to do with it. And I'm like, oh.
I know, of course you do.
Yeah, I was like, what is he gonna do? Because if you think about it, they never had their hands on it until 70 years later, way later. So they didn't have their hands on it for a while, and so to see if Howard would have gotten a hold of that
early,
oh my god.
Oh yeah, because I mean, when you look at when Howard first sees like the Hydra tech from the Tesseract, he's like, "This is years beyond what I have." Then he gets the Tesseract, and he can do anything he wants with it.
Anything.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Also,
but there are so many repercussions to this show. It's just crazy.
Yeah. No, totally, because like makes you think like, so he essentially built an Iron Man suit, and so it makes you think, what's the ripple effect, like with Tony later on? You know, like
he'll grow up with one.
But you have a more advanced, like
I was thinking about that. Like
he'll have a Morgan style situation.
Mark 1000 or something by the time.
Right.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
But imagine Tony getting a hold of an already advanced Iron Man suit.
Yeah.
Or imagine the relationship that Tony and Howard, or no, I'm sorry, that Steve and Howard had. You know, when Peggy left, Steve and Howard still had a relationship, and Steve probably, with his character and his his commitment to what he was doing, even being a weak guy in that suit, he had to have been like an adoptive uncle to Tony.
No. Captain America would have helped run Stark Enterprises. He would have been the CEO. He would have been Obadiah Stane.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? Like, he could have been like where Peggy was as far as Shield goes.
Sure.
You know, like Peggy was with Shield.
But he wasn't a Shield guy. He was drawn in. I don't know.
But like maybe he becomes that. You know.
But here's the other thing: if the events of Captain Carter, and this is where everything goes really crazy. And I've gone down this rabbit hole, and I'm going to go down it more. There was no Winter Soldier, which means that Winter Soldier never killed Howard Stark. Tony grew up with his father. You have no issue with the Sokovia Accords because there was no, there was no like. There's so many things.
Oh yeah,
T'Chaka would be still alive.
No Loki. No 2012 New York.
No, none of that. But I would think that. Steve would have taken the position of possibly Peggy, because she was gone, and somebody needed to fill that space. So when she came back at the end, I literally did not want the episode to end. I was like, what happens next? Like I couldn't tell.
I don't know.
Probably be part of Shield too.
Yeah, see, I think Bucky would have been a better choice to take Peggy's place. Steve was not a soldier. He's just not a soldier.
No, but she wasn't a soldier in her time either. Like
That's true.
She was more, as she got older, she was more like behind the scenes, maybe training people, giving people the encouragement and help that they need, becoming like founding Shield. Like she was the one like doing the hard stuff, the paperwork, and Steve could easily have done it, especially if him and Howard have like kept that connection.
Okay.
So that could easily happen.
No, I agree. I want to take it one step further.
Like,
Go ahead.
would still be. I think Hydra Stomper would still continue on. Could keep going. And
so I look at Steve Rogers outside of the military, and what did he do when he was in Winter Soldier outside of what he was doing for Shield. He was mentoring vets, right? And he did the same thing, or not mentoring vets. He wanted to, and he watched Sam do that, but of course he ends up doing that in Endgame. So it's within him to do that.
Right.
He also was scrawny, he's bullied, and so this guy's big drive is not letting bullies do anything. So I think he would have started the first major international like Boys and Girls Club, and like gone total philanthropist with Stark's money. So like he might not have even been involved in any of the things we're talking about just because of who Steve was without the soldier serum.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just being weird.
I don't know. He had a connection. You just been for training. That's fine. We love you for it.
What?
I think like because he had such a strong connection to Peggy, I think he would have stayed around where he met.
That's kind of my thinking too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he would have stayed in that field. He might not have been a soldier, but he would have been as close as he could get because it's like being close to her. So that's just my point about it.
That's a fair point.
That's a fair point.
It's a fair point. Okay, touche. Can we talk about the little fun throwbacks, the little connections, like when she grabbed Bucky by the arm and he goes, "Oh, you almost ripped my arm off." I loved all of those through the whole episode.
Tiny things.
Where only Marvel fans, like your friend Lala, would have been like, "What is that? I don't understand." Yeah, that's not good. Don't rip his arm off.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, because she was in her phone during that part. She was in her phone during that part, and I was like, I was like, oh, yeah.
No, that was the fun thing about it too. Was like they were playing on all these expectations that we had from Captain America. You know, it's like that's why I was like frame for frame, some moments you're like, oh, okay, this is very familiar. Like, what's gonna happen here? Are we gonna? And there was like all this like talk about Steve becoming the Winter Soldier. For some reason, people thought that was gonna happen in this episode.
I thought that when he blew up on the train, I was like, "Does he become?" And then they
well, see, that makes sense because he fell down the same ravine, and it seemed like he might.
Yeah,
have,
exactly.
But at the same time, that was Zola's experiments on him.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
But that was crazy.
Or
to me,
maybe
like,
Zolam got
in 2
recruited to
seconds.
Shield, and he worked on Steve to help
Like
Steve.
sooner.
You know.
Like yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought it was funny that she became the super soldier and like got the Tesseract in like 2 seconds. Like, she captured like Zola and got the Tesseract in like 2 seconds. She was like, "I got this. It's fine."
Okay, so let's talk about the potential future of Howard Stark, because Howard Stark has the Tesseract now for longer, and although we saw that he did good things with it, he also had a lot more supervision by the time they found it, and the government was fully involved. But in this case, it was like one soldier, him, and Peggy. Do we really trust that Tony wouldn't, or that Howard wouldn't have become the next supervillain?
Well, you know, the thing is, I probably would have, I would think that way. But if you really consider, I think one of the other pivotal moments of this show was that Peggy brought him into battle too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He didn't want to.
He had to go, and he has his hero moment that I think will also help inspire him moving forward.
Okay.
So,
yeah, he's seen things that he would have never saw before if he hadn't been involved in that. Yeah.
They did have him fly in to drop off Cap in the first place, so that was about as close as he ever got before.
Yeah, but then he also wanted to go fondue, so come on.
Yeah.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
My wife was watching with me, and she was worried because we all kind of were worried about the animation because it's a huge thing. If the animation's bad, you might be like, I don't know if I can handle this. And so we're watching along, and she's looking at it. She's like, wow, this is really gorgeous. How did Marvel get a hold of? And I went, love Disney. She goes, oh, that's right. They have all the animators they could ever want at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh no! Have a great evening, Ray Woo. And hopefully we'll see you our next
thanks for coming. I'm glad
episode.
to see you came by.
Captain Salty Dog's been talking about how this sounds like an episode of the animated Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man series, the older one from the 90s. And there was
crazy.
some super soldier talk. He even put the episode here, episode 4 of season 5. Keep that in mind.
That sounds familiar, but I'm not well versed in anime.
Was that before or after he turned into a spider?
Yeah. Like a
yeah.
monster spider.
So, any guesses on the next episode?
I'm going to assume that because we started off with maybe a Stark, it'll continue. But I have a feeling that Tony's episode, like which is essentially I think a Killmonger episode, maybe won't come into the end. Because I think a lot of people are looking for Tony, and I think Marvel was like, yeah, you go wait to the end before so you'll watch everything. I want to see. I hope the second episode is T'Challa being Star-Lord because I really want to see that episode.
Yeah, so
I
the
think
Funko
that
Pop
is
Captain Carter is 870, I think it was. Then T'Challa is 871. So I'm hoping that maybe that's how we get the numbers for the
Fair.
characters by order
That's
of
fair.
appearance.
I will make this venture that I think the very last episode is going to be Marvel Zombies. I think the 9th episode, because that's what people really want to see. Overall, I think people are like, oh, they're going to put the Marvel Zombies. Yeah, I think we're going to have to wait until the final episode. Panther too.
I actually think that it's going to be. I think it's going to be a mashup of all of these different scenarios. There's a car commercial, for the with all the Disney Plus characters,
commercial.
and there's a point where you've got Captain Carter, you've got T'Challa, you've got Strange Supreme, and they're fighting a whole bunch of Ultrons. And though you really, they can do whatever they want with commercials. I wonder, because there is a moment where like I think Strange like has to he like confronts himself in the previews, that we might end up getting like this amalgam of all of these characters and see them fighting together for something.
That'd be kind of cool.
I love it.
Did anybody see the clip in Loki where they show a Captain Carter being hauled off in the background?
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. Like,
I say
looks
allegedly
suspiciously
too,
like
but
Peggy,
it looks
but
just like her, and even the outfit looks the same. And of course, now that
her hair is the same.
right, but now that the timeline has been kaput, this is what Peggy would have done in that moment, and she just went and redid it again.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think it's fun. And sometimes I think they put those things in there just to make us talk about it.
Yeah.
Even if they're not real.
So it does look like episode 2 is going to be T'Challa, Star-Lord.
It does say that on IMDb?
I found another article talking about it, but I thought they had released
Oh yeah, right here.
a list of
Episode 2 is T'Challa. Episode 3 is Loki.
I'm going to be very emotional with the T'Challa episode. One, because of Chadwick Boseman mainly, but then also because I fell in love with Yondu in Volume 2, and I want more of that. And I'm thinking we're going to see more of a father-son relationship between Yondu and T'Challa, and I think that would be fantastic.
Okay, so real quick, because I'm on here, that is, of course, we know is the big episode for there. But you know what blows my mind is that the breakdown, the little spiel about episode 3. What if Loki presented himself to Earth's governments as king of Asgard using his diplomacy?
Oh.
What if he's like
4 doesn't say anything yet.
Like,
go ahead.
He's like Sylvie and way more adjusted. Maybe this is a way more adjusted Loki we're gonna see.
Well, we've also seen a Thor that seems very like party like not serious and
true,
very clean shaven, I think, in some points, and just not serious at all.
My guess was pretty close. Marvel Zombies is slated for episode 8, while what Marvelite was saying is accurate, and there is a final episode with what looks like Doctor Strange only in the picture. No synopsis. So we are getting some clues, but nothing that's giving us more than just getting us excited.
Yes.
But now I'm excited for episode 3. I want to see Loki come to Earth and take it over. That'd be interesting. Not that I want to live under that dude. I don't know. Not that guy.
But Strange Supreme is going to be the servant of Dormammu. So that should be very interesting.
Oh, geez. Wow.
Wow is right. Okay. Well, we are essentially getting towards the end of the show, so why don't we give our rating of the episode and how we feel like this show is going to go? Maybe a projection rating? That's new and different.
Okay.
So give me the episode rating you give for the Captain Carter episode, and then give me what you think this show will be for a season 1. What do you think it'll be, a 6 or a 9? Your best guess. And Mr. Marvel, or I'm sorry, Brian, you go ahead.
All right. For this episode, I'm giving it an 8, and I think it's just going to grow from there. So I think it's going to maintain at least an 8, and may push up to a 9 for me.
I like it. All right.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Mr. Marvel.
I'd give this about a 9. Again, I think the Hellboy comparison is a little cheeky, but at the same time, getting past that, the idea that Red Skull is hailing Hive from
Mhm.
what was the name of the planet now? I'm trying to remember. It started with an M. I can't remember it now. But like the idea that was Hive, and the connection to Age of the Shield, which I think would be fantastic. I'm excited about that, and I think it's going to be we're gonna have 9s across the board for the most part. I think the T'Challa episode with Michael Rooker and Chadwick Boseman both being together, I think that's going to be my 10. And then when we get to Marvel Zombies, it's going to be a 10 because I don't care if it's bad; it's still going to be a 10 for me. Just the trailer is giving me a 10. So,
all right, Lala.
That planet was called Mavis.
yes,
So you know, Mavis.
Thank you.
I'm going to give this episode, I'll say a 9.3.
All right.
One, because I love that they started off with Peggy. It's a woman. She's badass. I can't be mad at that at all. Overall, I never give anything a 10, just so you know, Brian. I never give anything a 10.
Yeah.
And if I do, then I must have really liked it. But I think I think as a whole, I think this series is going to make me cry because of Chadwick. I think it's going to make me be like, because of the zombies and Killmonger being like an Iron Man like figure, whatever. So I'm just excited for it all.
That's pretty cool.
And I'll give it a solid 9.5. I think this whole series is going to
Nice. Wow.
So I'm going to give it a 9 for this episode, and then I'm going to say that it could go to 8. It's possible that we're going to get sick of, episodes after 5, 6, 7 of these. We'll be like, oh, gimmicky. It's possible. It's possible. But likely it'll be a 9 across the board. Likely.
It'll be interesting to like come back, like when everything's all said and done, and be like, how does it match up to what we said?
And that's why I thought it'd be interesting to ask.
That'll be fun.
Also, I forgot about this, and then it popped back in my head. I gave it a 0.3 because even though Mr. Marvel sees Hellboy, I see Age of the Shield, and it's letting me know that somebody in Marvel feels like it's canon. The Age of the Shield is canon.
On that,
so that's why.
They're just helping that Professor Kev get his, his point across, because try how Goofy is starting to call some of the Netflix stuff canon. So that works.
Yeah,
he's winning.
Yeah.
On that note, have any of you seen the Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes cartoon show?
Yeah.
Yes, I couldn't get through it.
Really?
It was the animation. I don't like the animation.
I love it. It's 2 seasons. It's so good, and it's basically right as the MCU got kicked up. So it's like
and they took a lot of hints from it.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of 616 in it, but then there's and a little bit of like Ultimate Universe, a little bit, and then the MCU as well, because it's totally taken the Tony Stark of the MCU,
crazy,
but with the like Spider-Man of the 616. It's a neat mashup, and they do a lot of the storylines. So you get the Secret Invasion, you get Ms. Marvel, and I'm talking like older Ms. Marvel, like you get Carol Danvers Ms. Marvel.
Yeah.
And so this was like the last big cartoon they did before starting to bring in a lot of the new crowd, a lot of the new characters. So check it out. But there's a lot of scenes like that with Red Skull that are very similar with that big world alien type stuff. So I don't know. Thought I'd put that.
Yeah. Is there one point where he's like running from Thanos because like Thanos was after him at some point? I think that was that.
they have. I mean, I'm telling you, like they get into all the major characters. Like it's
So he had like an
Yeah,
Iron Man
yeah.
suit at some point.
yeah, Doom's in it. Like it's
Yep.
it's very cool.
Oh, jeez, really? Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is very comic booky, but you can
Yeah.
tell like the characters are very much like Tony Stark, very much like the guy doing the voice is trying to be like Robert Downey Jr. when he
Trying
does
to be
it.
like
It works
RDJ,
well.
yeah.
totally. Well,
That's what it kind of sounds like this Tony's gonna be. And what if like it's someone doing a RDJ impression?
if it's
Yeah.
the same guy that did it in that show,
Yeah.
he'll do a perfect job.
Yeah.
Captain Salty Dog, Mr. Muncie, Miraculous Muncie, Black Girl Marvel, Mr. Marvelite, all the movie things, also known as Brian. Thank you guys all for a wonderful show tonight. All those that
Yeah,
are in
thank
chat,
you.
but I don't see. I don't want to call people out and be that person. We are going to do a raid. I believe the Streamin' Demon, also another TikToker who does some great movie stuff, mostly horror, is streaming right now. So we'll go raid him if you guys are willing to stick around. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a great night. You guys can say bye as we go.
Hi guys. Have a good night. Thanks for being here.
Ryan, thanks for telling me that the dude wasn't Chris, because he sounded like Chris. There's
Oh yeah, I
That's
know.
pretty-
Like I had to check because like he did such a great job.
Yeah, and it's
then I
not
saw
going to be
some other
better than
reports.
Cumberbatch in the Doctor Strange stuff either.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting.
no, this
Yeah,
actually him. He's listed as coming back as a voice